One of these films was produced during the major slasher boom of the early 80s and became a cult hit, celebrated for its feminist approach. The other was released just shy of the original's 40th anniversary, in an era where such an approach is less unique, but it still introduced some unexpected surprises into the mix. But which is the best? The stakes are pretty high in the original Slumber Party Massacre, let me tell you. A group of high school girls are planning a sleepover. With the prospects of weed, pizza, and pajamas, it is sure to be a hell of a night. One of the gang suggests inviting the new girl, Valerie, who has moved into the house next door. But after Valerie proves to be too good at basketball, an act of jealous bitchery creates an awkward situation and she remains an outcast, forced to try and have a good night with her annoying little sister instead. Oh, and yeah, there's also this psycho with a power drill going around killing women. But if horror cinema is anything to go by, that's just everyday life in America back then. The Slumber Party Massacre. What a title! You watch those credits and can't help but imagine you're about to watch the trashiest, sleaziest film of the 1980s. On the surface, if you're not paying too much attention, that is definitely how it seems at first. It's like a blood-soaked Porky's. At the 2-minute mark, on the dot, we get our first of many lingering nude scenes creeping on women. Their male classmates are constantly on the prowl. And don't forget, there's the basketball game where the MVP is gravity. And of course, there is the school shower scene.
Hey, you want to go to a party tonight?
Where's it gonna be?
White House.
I don't know. I've got to study. I got a test on Monday.
It is so direct in its unnecessarily pervy camera work, but it's almost laughable. The initial version of the script was intended as a parody, but for the most part, the finished film is constructed and plays like your standard slasher fare of the day. In that way, the filmmaker's true intentions become apparent.
Stop that!
Before, I was thinking, yeah, whoever directed this must look like the biggest pervert of all time. Like Harvey Weinstein wearing Woody Allen glasses and a I Love Bill Cosby shirt. In reality, thankfully, that cursed image is not real and never will be, as the Slumber Party Massacre was famously written and directed by women, Rita Mae Brown and Amy Holden Jones. With this lens, we can see that the over-the-top male gazing is essentially bringing undivided attention to cheap skin-obsessed movies and calling them out.
Cut that out! Cut that out!
Even if you remove the murderous killer, from scene to scene these young women are being endlessly observed, stalked, and objectified. Commentary on the slasher subgenre often compares the stabbing of female victims by male perpetrators with the act of violent penetration. In no other film of the time is that link more intentionally evident than it is here. The killer's weapon of choice, the long, stiff power drill, is blatantly symbolic of a psychopathic todger. Recall the now famous poster for the film, a gaggle of scantily clad women, flamed between the open legs of the man, with the drill bit hanging down in the middle. When the killer finally breaks his silence towards the end, his words are straight out of the Creeper's Handbook, co-written by Robin Thicke.
You know you want it.
Justifying his actions through manipulative reasonings, confessing a very deep, very one-sided love. The girl's response sums up the whole ordeal that women encounter in their lives in the most perfect and economical way.
I don't even know you.
I don't even know you. Needless to say, it is very satisfying when the women fight back and castrate the fuck out of his phallic symbol, like an overdue, overzealous bris taking place at B&Q. The script ensures the women are treated more fairly, and dare I say, humanely, outside of the purposefully ridiculous perverted moments. They feel more rounded, no pun intended, than many knife-fodder victims in comparable films. Knowledge and delivery of effective self-defense techniques make them more than just helpless runners. The pressures of looking pretty are touched upon, and they are given the chance to be naturally, sexually inclined, without suffering fatal punishment for such urges. This is most evident with the copy of Playgirl, featuring Sylvester Stallone. I can only imagine the centerfold saw him carrying his massive log through the Russian snow. Yeah! But how does this film actually stand as a film? Well, it's pretty good. The villain, known as the Driller Killer, is at first a tad disappointing. From the very start, he has a name, he has a face, and later, he has a voice. However, what he lacks in initial mystery, he makes up for by standing in for any number of sick men out there who terrorize women. Frankly, the double denim is the red flag here. The drill is a fearfully violent weapon. While it makes some of the kills repetitive, it is just a naturally scary tool to be afraid of. Oh yes, a highlight for me is when an early victim briefly subdues the killer with a laundry cart. The killer stops for a moment, no doubt to check if there's some tasty denim accessories in there, but alas, nay, no denim, so he continues on and makes his kill. All the usual tropes make an appearance. The POV stalking scenes, the killer being dead but not actually dead until they have to make him really dead again. And there's a huge number of fake-out jump scares, including the eye-roll-inducing cat in the closet. But hey, at least the film had the decency to set up the missing cat earlier, with a Carpenter-esque soundtrack, and scenes where corpses suddenly hang down, people bang on suburban doors as the killer slowly approaches. This film owes more than a little to Halloween. And one particular shot feels flat out stolen from Black Christmas, with the killer glaring down at the victim, weapon raised high. I can't blame them too much. It is a great image. To summarise, the Slumber Party Massacre has a good sense of humour without compromising the tone of the genre, and delivers important messages without coming across as preachy or distracting. I wonder, if this was remade in 2021, would the new film be able to say the same?
I love you.
The Driller Killer is back, but the plot about jealous basketball excursions is long gone. Instead, we begin with a flashback sequence, set in 1993. Yes, we are now firmly in a time when the spooky old murder incidents that start horror movies occur in the early 90s. See, talk about scary, Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, a slumber party is interrupted by the double denim devil, who proceeds to murder all but one of the group. Trish manages to fight back, using the Driller Killer's kryptonite, canned clam chowder, and knocks him into the nearby lake, where he seemingly drowned. Traumatized for life by the chowder incident, Trish remains overprotective of her teenage daughter, Dana. Surprise, surprise, the young girl ain't hearing it, as she buggers off to her own slumber party with her own friends, ultimately ending up at the same ill-fated location with the same actually not so ill-fated murderer. My expectations were pretty low for this one. I'd say they were below my knees for sure. I anticipated a super serious take with all the joy and humour sucked out of it. I also anticipated a new twist ending that introduced a demon cult that worships an actual double denim devil. Turns out, I was wrong. In fact, this Slumber Party Massacre overtly leans into the comedy, with a large sprinkling of parody and meta jokes throughout. Of course they couldn't help but reference the guitar from Slumber Party Massacre 2. I found myself laughing surprisingly frequently. As the movie saddled up for the end of the first act, I did start to feel it was getting a bit too silly in its contrivances. But what's this? Once again, I was wrong. It was all intentional, and opened up for a major plot twist that I did not see coming. But you know, I don't want to spoil it, which will make talking about this film quite tough. To tiptoe around it, I'll just say it adds a completely new dynamic to separate the film from the original, giving the characters a fresh collective agency that I was very welcoming of. Like the old series, this remake too was written and directed by women, as it should be. It's no spoiler then to announce that the feminist angles are still in play, even more so than before.
You want the penis man or no?
The introduction of a neighbouring cabin occupied by hunky but dorky men is a big aspect here. It's the boys who are subjected to the slow, deliberate shots of their bodies and engage in pillow fights as the women creep on them. Contemporary issues, such as female victim blaming, are raised and are explicitly discussed, but even so, it never becomes too much like in Black Christmas 2019, for example. The jokey tone helps in that regard, as does the fact that the men aren't one-dimensional evil in their ways. There is a level of self-awareness, even if they don't know it. In the 90s flashback, ex-boyfriend Chad creeps on the party and starts to tuck into his pants. Until he sees the driller killer on the other side also creeping.
Is he for real? That pervert?
Chad is disgusted by this and takes action. One of the present-day boys spurts out some sexist tripe, but realises he's gone too far and apologises. Equality might not be completely established just yet though. The infamous shower scene now takes place with a man, but his arse is pixelated like he's in The Sims. No Blowfish cover-ups needed here, sorry. I'm not saying I'm desperate to see his backside, but hopefully that's more to do with the film's premiere on the Sci-Fi Channel than any equality issues. Like I said before, there's actually quite a few twists here, so to avoid spoilers, I'm just going to leave it there. No, don't go just yet. How would you like some verdicts? Best overall cast. The remake wins my first vote. While I still enjoy the original group, the Remakes team benefit from a lot of varied interactions, amusing banter, and a more proactive agenda. Best final girl. To add to the last point, Dana is my choice here. She has a fully fledged arc that directly ties into the messages of the film, and, you know, she's pretty tough too. Best villain. The driller killer is quite similar in both iterations, but I will side with the original in this case. The remake's interpretation has a genuinely unsettling scene, where a local man's fear of this man is plain as day. However, overall he's a bit too wacky, and his dialogue is all recycled from before, peppered in here and there, as opposed to being a big reveal after this whole ordeal. The original actor straddles the line between weird and hammy a bit better, whilst also getting to really showcase that denim. Best overall kill. Ooh, this is tough. Both movies have a high body count, with some particular standouts between them. Overall, the remake just about takes it. The drill is still prominently used, but there's also a greater variety of creative deaths that reduce the threat of repetition. Best kill. I was very tempted to give this to the original film when the driller killer wrestles it out with one of the boys, ending with a graphic and masterfully edited kill cut against a horror film on Valerie's television. But ultimately, I have to go with the ending to the original film. The women finally fighting back, the castration, the farewell to wanking arms, the slice, the fall into the pool, and then the crazy second wind, with a silly but fun final blow. Great stuff. Best film. Oh god. The old school guys are gonna hate me, aren't they? Please don't downvote me to oblivion just for my opinion. Looking at you, Wrong Turn fans. But I think I have to go with the remake. If nothing else, it kept me engaged throughout, whereas the original does have a slight dip in the middle act, where the fake-out jump scares get a bit too much. But really, both films are worth a watch for any slasher aficionado. Well, what about you? I want to hear your opinions on this very important matter. Throw your feelings into the comment section below.